And gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Mr. Merrigan's Moments in Geography. We are going to continue our journey learning about the new East Europe, and we are going to be looking at Hungary, the Czech Republic, as well as Slovakia. Some very interesting countries here. So what are we going to be able to do today? We're going to be able to identify and describe the physical geography, the economics, and the culture of Hungary. We're also going to look and identify and explain the economic, the political, and the cultural traits of the Czech Republic. And then we're going to be able to identify and explain the economics and cultures of Slovakia. And certainly the Czech Republic and the Slovakians have a lot of common history, which we'll talk a lot about today. Just to kind of keep in mind today, following in for my students, Chapter 13, Section 2, one thing to keep in mind, all three of these are former communist countries and all became independent right around 1989, and today are democracies with free market economies. So let's look at the map. So you can see here we have some familiar territory. We've talked about Germany and Austria already, certainly, and we talked about Poland earlier. And so we're looking at the Czech Republic, we're looking at Slovakia, and we're looking at Hungary today. So right in the heart of Eastern Europe. Let's start with Hungary, the land of the Magyars, and we'll talk a little bit more about that group here in just a moment. Hungary, though, finds itself very heavily reliant upon the Danube River, which is our second longest river in Europe. It's about 1,776 miles. Some other sources say it's about 1,771, depends on how you measure it. The Volga River is our longest river in Europe. But the Danube is very important for transportation as well as trade in Hungary. Certainly, Hungary also is the subject of a very famous waltz called the Blue Danube, which is by Strauss, so check that one out. Other physical features of Hungary certainly include the Hungarian plain, Lake Balaton, and certainly that Danubia, which again is kind of a connection with the Danube River, as well as the Carpathian Mountains. Economically, Hungary certainly has some agriculture. You're going to see wheat, corn, sunflowers, sugar beets and potatoes and grapes, especially sugar beets and potatoes, very common in Eastern Europe given the climate as well as the physical geography. Certainly mining is going to be a part of this with the mountain ranges, coal. You've got some petroleum and natural gas also serving as resources there, and certainly those foods, beverages, and certainly tobacco as well. Europe's location for Prezi, the site that helps you create presentations, has its headquarters, its European headquarters in Hungary. You'll also see another very famous Hungarian export here on the screen, the Rubik's Cube. So best of luck with solving those. Culturally, when we look at the Hungarians, most of them are the descendants of the Magyars. This is a nomadic group that made its way to this area from Central Asia. They're very skilled horsemen and riders, and arrived somewhere around 400 CE or AD. Okay. In the 1500s, certainly this would be an area that saw a lot of connection and growth with a little bit of the expansion of Austria, and right around 1867 certainly became a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and those two remained kind of interjoined as part of that until the end of World War I, where they fought as one of the Central Powers. Populations were around 10 million, a little over 10.1, give or take. Catholic and Protestant are your two major religions. Budapest is your capital, and certainly when it comes to the culture, a very famous Hungarian food dish would be goulash. If you don't know what that is, go check it out. And certainly the spice known as paprika, very important. All right, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic and Slovakia are both part of what used to be called Czechoslovakia. And we'll get into that a little bit more in just a little bit. Known for its natural scenery, but also for its spas. Check those out. A lot of different treatments you could get in Czechoslovakia. Notice the variety of treatments there, certainly very appetizing cuisine as well as ornate decor, definitely very high-end in the Czech Republic, especially around Prague, its capital. High standard of living when you compare it to a lot of the Eastern Europeans. Manufacturing, and the example I have linked here is the South Korean company Hyundai has a plant here in the Czech Republic, which certainly helps to create that backbone for the economy in the Czech Republic. As far as mining goes, those minerals, you're going to see limestone, you're going to see coal, you'll also see colon, and which is a kind of a fine clay that's used in pottery, so things like porcelain. It's used in toothpaste, as well as a variety of cosmetics, as well as light diffusing material in white incandescent light bulbs. Talking a little bit about the history. So Czechoslovakia and Slovakia, certainly for a time around the 1500s, were a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then after the fall of that empire at the end of World War I, helping to form Czechoslovakia, especially during the Soviet years after World War II, and then kind of later breaking apart from each other. So that's where that split occurs with Slovakia in 1993. Students of mine, make sure you check out page 374 and this interactive map to kind of help you look through that history, especially with the Bohemian Empire, especially if you have some Bohemian ancestry. Currently, they are a parliamentary democracy with a prime minister. You can see Sobotka, and I apologize if I mispronounce that, prime minister in the Czech Republic. Again, population's around 10.2, and somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of that population is urban, including around its capital of Prague. Soccer, ice hockey, and handball are all popular sports in the Czech Republic. All right, talking a little bit about Slovakia. Carpathian Mountains are in the north, very rich in iron, lead, zinc, and copper. The exports, what they're selling to those other countries, you've got cement, you've got steel, fuels, machinery, and weapons. So again, manufacturing certainly important here as well. They've had some difficulty with that transition from a government-owned market like communism to a free market. And so what we had is some corrupt leaders in the government who, over the course of privatization or that lending itself to more privately owned companies, wanting to absorb more of that and becoming quite corrupt and allowing other businesses and other things in order to line their own pockets, so to speak. Population's a little bit smaller. It's about 5.4 million, 60% of which is urban. Very scenic, very beautiful. You're going to see that that's a common theme in this part of Eastern Europe. You have about 300 castles, as well as 9 national parks. Bratislava is its capital, and it's it's the only capital in the world that actually borders with another country. So that's actually kind of unique. Most of them are in the center or along coasts. And then you'll notice that there's certainly some modern architecture that blends really well with the old. And that's one thing that Slovakia, as well as the Czech Republic, are known for, is their architecture and how they've been able to blend that old style that makes them unique with more of a modern style as well. Culturally, when we're looking at Slovakia, skiing is a very big sport, so is tennis, hockey, and certainly football or soccer. Kristina is a popular singer with a lot of number one songs. So if you're looking for an example of Slovakian music, check her out. When it comes to our national dish, sheep's cheese and pasta. And when we're looking at the flag of Slovakia, we're looking at the tricolor, the red, white, and blue, and the Slovak coat of arms, again depicting some of that religious background. All right, as always, check in with the quiz here. See how you do, making sure you're picking up the big ideas. For my students, make sure you're following along with your guided notes or by writing them. For those of you who aren't in my class, I really appreciate you listening to me. I hope you learned something, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening.